special edition of Tomorrow's World.
On the border with China, a clock counts down the seconds left to the beginning of a whole new future for Hong Kong. Welcome to a spectacular view of Hong Kong, the city on everyone's lips, a city gearing up for the most important date in its history.
Yes, on July 1st, 1997, 156 years of British rule comes to an end as Hong Kong once again becomes a part of China.
So where better to be on the eve of the next chapter in Hong Kong's history?
It's the gateway to the East, the hub of Asia, and to keep it that way, they're undertaking the most ambitious construction project of all time. Chek Lap Kok, Hong Kong's new airport.
It's where Eastern wisdom is meeting Western science head-on. Hong Kong scientists are putting traditional Chinese remedies under the microscope to sort out what's myth and what's medicine.
And it's where making money is everything, so it's no surprise that someone would want to turn rubbish into diamonds. It's more of a surprise that they can.
But first, we're on our way to the biggest building site on the planet. Down there is Chek Lap Kok, soon to be the world's largest airport. And it's all the more remarkable and controversial because to build it, they've demolished an entire island. Hong Kong's existing airport, Kai Tak, is famous for all the wrong reasons. It's completely overstretched and pilots need special training to land there. This is the hairiest approach in the world. Pilots fly so low over the urban area of Kowloon that they can almost read the fake designer labels on the t-shirts drying on the washing lines. But in all this, where do you find space for a new airport? What Hong Kong has no shortage of is tiny mountainous islands, but they're hardly ideal for building airports on. So they chose the uninhabited island of Chek Lap Kok and blew the top off. In the biggest land reclamation project of all time, they blasted, scraped, tipped and pumped millions of tons of rock and sand to make the platform for the airport. When they'd finished smearing it into the South China Sea, Chek Lap Kok was over 4 times as big. One small piece of the original island has been preserved, so you can get an idea of what it was like before they got to it. If you imagine hard enough, that is. For instance, the original shoreline used to be down at my feet. Now, it's about 6 kilometres over there. Somehow I don't think this level of destruction of nature could ever happen in Britain. But then again, people here are prepared to make big sacrifices in the name of progress and prosperity. This is what they're aiming at. The biggest ever airport, with a terminal building over 1 kilometre in length. But as things stand at the moment, they've still a long way to go before reality catches up with the architect's vision.
The architect here took a slightly different view, and that was that once you got into the building, albeit a very deep plan building, they wanted the passengers to be very much part of the flight experience they were about to embark on. And down either side, we've got story height glazing, which gives you an immediate impact before you get onto the plane.
They hope to be open by April 1998, 1 year behind the original schedule, and not in time for the handover. 35 million people a year will be able to fly into the island of Chek Lap Kok. But building the airport was only half the problem. Getting people to and from central Hong Kong, 25 kilometres away, was the other half. To link remote island to chaotic mainland meant breaking another world record by building the longest ever road and rail suspension bridge. With a span of almost 1.5 kilometres, the stunning Tsing Ma Bridge will be Chek Lap Kok's lifeline to the rest of the world. At Actually, it's high enough up here to start feeling quite queasy. There is no doubt that the whole airport project is a stupendous engineering achievement. But you know, there's more at stake here than just megabucks.
It's no secret that a reclamation project this big will have a massive impact on the environment. Now, pollution will certainly increase as the flow of the bay is stifled. But one of the most contentious issues of this airport is that it's going to become the death sentence for a whole community of dolphins.
Before work began in 1989, the water to the west of Hong Kong was home to the Chinese white dolphin. Numbers were estimated to be as high as 400. Now, there could be as few as 80. To protect the last few remaining dolphins, environmentalist Joe Ruxton is campaigning for a sanctuary, but is unhappy with the proposed location.
Joe, where exactly are we now on this map?
Okay, we've got Hong Kong Island here, and what we've done is move all the way across. This is where the suspension bridge was, and then we came into the waters of northern Lantau and over to Lung Kwu Chau, and that's the island that we're moored beside now.
Of course, this is where the proposed sanctuary is going to be, yeah?
That's right, and this is the new airport site here. You can see the original outline of the island of Chek Lap Kok, and all the rest of it is reclaimed.
Since the project began, how much have the numbers depleted, do you think?
It's difficult to say because they've not been studied before, so we have no idea of the size of the population. But what we have noticed is that the pod size is getting smaller and smaller. Where before you would see 20 dolphins together, now if you see them it tends to be much.
In a way, I mean, isn't that going to...
In it is, yeah. If you, yeah. They couldn't have chosen the worst place to establish a sanctuary. To start, there's 3 main sewage outfalls. Quality is bad and it's going to get worse. They're going to need to build an aviation fuel receiving facility right beside the southern island, and that will involve heavy machinery, dredging and maintenance dredging, and of course oil tankers coming into the area.
The airport doesn't seem like the most environmentally friendly project on Earth. But is the Hong Kong government aware of all the issues?
I think it will be a lot more environmentally friendly as an airport when it's finished. There won't be tens, hundreds of thousands of people living under the flight path. There are 1 or 2 environmental problems, including, as you've said, the impact on the humpbacked dolphin, about which not very much has been known in the past. Thanks, in fact, to what's happening, a great deal more will be known in the future, because we're establishing a marine sanctuary, and we're working with the scientific community both here and in China to try to ensure that the dolphins are rather better looked after.
Look, there's one just behind it now.
Look there, just
Lovely
there.
pink one.
Fantastic. Are they doomed? Is that it?
Already the death rate is very high, and if it carries on at that level, then there's no doubt about it. We won't have them here anymore.
In fact, Chek Lap Kok Airport is just the beginning. Hong Kong has many more long-term plans to continue turning stretches of ocean into tarmac. So one thing's for sure, China will be getting back far more land than it lost back in 1841. When you can't be where the action is, don't deprive yourself of some of the fun.
With the Royal Hong Kong Jockey Club's new wireless betting system, you can have a flutter wherever you are, right up to the very last second.
Winning has never been easier. Then again, neither has losing.
Designed in Hong Kong and made in China.
Who are your Tongan? This morning, what color your sputum?
I didn't look, really. I don't... The remarkable thing about Hong Kong is that while the 41 hospitals here dispense modern medical care, Just down the road, the traditional Chinese doctors continue to do brisk business with remedies that have changed little for thousands of years.
But terrapin shell for skin allergies? Seahorses for tonsillitis and bringing your cholesterol level down? And gecko for impotence. Now, you'd be forgiven for thinking this is all a lot of old cobblers. And you wouldn't be alone, because a lot of scientists are also dismissive about all this. But come 1997, the Chinese want to make this huge body of folk medicine an integral part of healthcare here. Hong Kong scientists are putting it to the test in Chinese medicine's biggest shake-up for 4,000 years.
The last 5,000 tigers in the world are being killed. All because some men believe that eating tiger penis will give them its legendary sexual prowess. Perhaps they, too, can make love for a full 15 seconds. Please, destroy the myth, not the tiger.
Despite its popularity, there is no scientific evidence to support the medicinal use of tiger parts. But what about other medicines? Well, ginseng is the most widely used of all of them. But Professor David Kwon thinks that here, too, popular wisdom has got it all wrong.
There's been a lot of claims made about Chinese medicine. And some are fantasies and some are facts. Ginseng has been claimed to have anti-aging effect. It's been claimed to be good for hypertension and also good for diabetes. And it's up to us to find out which are the facts, which are the fantasies.
Millions of pounds of ginseng is sold in Hong Kong every year. Traditionally, it's taken in soup.
There are two main types of ginseng. One is North American ginseng, and the other is Oriental ginseng. And North American ginseng is far more expensive than the Oriental ginseng.
In Hong Kong, people believe both types help heart disease, but Professor Kwon's experiments showed otherwise. He examined the effect of ginseng on tiny blood vessels taken from rats. The expensive North American ginseng caused a slight contraction in the vessels. However, the Oriental ginseng caused the vessels to dilate dramatically, indicating opposite health effects.
People generally assume that the more expensive one must be better, but it's not necessarily the case. In North American ginseng, even though it's very expensive, that might not be good for the heart, while the Korean ginseng is cheaper, may be better for the heart diseases.
This insight into just one herb took Dr. Kwon several years. How can science tackle all 5,000 different ingredients in the ancient literature? It's a phenomenal task, but at Hong Kong's Chinese Medicinal Research Center, they've collected thousands of ingredients from human placenta to urine sediment. And one by one, they're putting the claims of traditional medicine under scientific scrutiny.
People are using it, and they're happy with it, but there is very little scientific support or documentation or proof to tell us why and how it works. And here, we have to bring in scientific methods, new technology, new instruments to help document the value of Chinese medicine.
Already, they've some interesting findings. In Chinese medicine, it's thought that rhino horn relieves fever. Their work on confiscated samples has shown that indeed it does. But the good news, for the rhino at least, is that cattle horn works just as well. And preliminary evidence shows that a root called trichosanthin has a role in the treatment of AIDS, where Western medicine is still desperate for answers. Information like this will indicate how much traditional remedies can offer Western medicine in the future. But already, one doctor is bringing the two together. Dr. Xu treats his cancer patients with conventional chemotherapy. But at the same time, they're receiving an extract from the Yongzhi mushroom, a mainstay of Chinese medicine. They now know that the mushroom reduces the side effects of chemotherapy, making for a combined medicine better than either alone.
It's worth remembering that drugs can and do come from the unlikeliest of sources. AZT was extracted from the semen of salmon. But the big question is, do they work? Here in Hong Kong, if traditional remedies are to become part of modern medicine, then it's up to science to figure out fact from fiction.
Would you like to take the guesswork out of the rhythm method? Well, now you can. with the contraceptive alarm clock that does all the work for you.
Every day when you wake up, just pop the electronic thermometer into your mouth and it will automatically detect the minute temperature changes in your body that signal when you're fertile and when you're not.
Natural family planning. It's never been so easy.
Designed in Hong Kong and made in China.
This is no ordinary beachcomber. This is Professor Hiraoka, and his harvest could be worth a small fortune. No doubt you've noticed we're not actually collecting shells or pretty sea-polished stones. No, no. We're gathering all the old bits of washed-up plastic we can find. And have a look up there, because that's where we're taking them. The brand new Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. You ready, Professor? Yeah. How have you done? Professor Hiraoka has a fascination with lasers. He's been firing them, well, at just about everything, really, for the last 15 years. His latest targets are the old plastic bottles from the beach, which he says he can turn into diamonds. Diamonds are just carbon, and there's plenty of that in plastic. The trick is to rearrange the carbon atoms in the plastic into diamond form, and that's where the lasers come in. Watch what happens inside here. The laser melts the plastic bottle into tiny, white-hot, molten fireballs. The fireballs smash into a hot silicon plate with such force that the carbon atoms are freed from the plastic to form crystals of pure diamond. Now, these diamonds aren't exactly large. I don't think Elizabeth Taylor would be too impressed, because you need a scanning electron microscope to see them. And I don't think she's got one of those. But whereas jewelers aren't beating a path to Hiraoka's door, the less glamorous drilling industry is. They'll pay big bucks for these tiny diamonds, which are just what they need to put a hard edge back on their worn-out cutting tools. So is Hiraoka about to leave academic life to buy a beach of his own? Strangely, no. He's signed the rights to this lucrative process over to the university. Is the stress of modern work taking over your life? Is there no light at the end of the tunnel? Well, at times like this, you need to relax, unwind, and reach out for your inner spirit.
And it's never been easier, because now there's the revolutionary all-new electronic hymn book. 500 of your favorite hymn tunes, all available at the touch of a button.
Choose from any one of 5 instruments to let the stereo sounds transport you into a world of peace and tranquility.
Designed in Hong Kong and made in China.
Hong Kong is the archetypal concrete jungle. They've been knocking up tower blocks here at a colossal rate since the 60s. But the government found that some were far from safe. A 1989 survey of 55,000 buildings revealed that 30% were suspected as dangerous. When one fell down, that suspicion proved well-founded. It all boiled down to some irresponsible building practices in the late 60s, when unscrupulous contractors were using cheap material and mixing concrete with seawater.
Since discovering the problem, the housing department have had their hands full. They've had to demolish a lot of the old buildings, and a few, like this one, have had to undergo emergency surgery. Now, while all this was going on, one man was busy coming up with the ultimate way to diagnose sickness in Hong Kong's concrete.
Engineer Alan Geary.
The problem is that there are so many buildings in Hong Kong, and to do a survey of all of those is laborious.
Well, how long does it actually take to do a survey? Are we talking about days or weeks?
A single survey can take weeks or even months.
Oh, as much as that?
And it's intrusive. You need to take concrete samples out of the building, take them back to a laboratory, and then analyze them.
All very time-consuming, but Alan's devised a fiendishly cunning way of detecting problems, without drilling out lumps of concrete, without doing a survey at all. Central Plaza is Hong Kong's tallest building and just 3.5 years old. So you wouldn't expect any problems here yet. Any problems here yet?
Absolutely not.
Well, as I said, you wouldn't expect any problems. But how does he know for sure? He knows because he has installed the world's first building stethoscope here. I travelled up to the 73rd floor without knowing what a building stethoscope was. What I imagined was something big and elaborate with wires trailing all over the building. No. This is it, I suppose.
This is it. And here we have essentially the heartbeat of the building. And the building looks healthy to me.
How can a building have a heartbeat? Well, the wind causes all buildings to vibrate at a certain frequency. That's what the stethoscope picks up. Any structural damage or weakening of the concrete will cause the building to become sloppier and vibrate slower. A subtle change that can be picked up by one small sensor on the floor. That's all you need?
That's all we need.
No samples, no surveys, just a tiny sensor. Seems hard to believe. We'll prove it. Now what we've got is a concrete slab, which is our building, the fan, which simulates the wind. Up there is the sensor, which feeds in the heartbeat of the building into the computer. The heartbeat has jumped to the left. The damage has been detected. Rather than going round buildings with a drill, Alan now does most of his surveys over a phone. He's hooked up to stethoscopes installed in some of Hong Kong's most prominent skyscrapers. But Hong Kong surveyors aren't about to be put out of a job, not just yet anyway. Alan's now got to prove that his stethoscope works just as well for spotting dangerous old buildings as for monitoring shiny new ones. Put it on the floor, fix the sensor, and bingo. Within hours, rather than months, you can have your answer. So what would your prognosis be, Doc? How long has it got?
Well, it's not as good as Central Plaza, but I would think it's still got a few good years left in it.
Of course, with such a radical system, and surveyors being a naturally cautious bunch, they'll take some convincing before they put their trust in something that makes it all look too easy. Brighten up your breakfast with the toaster with a brighter message.
Designed in Hong Kong and made in China.
Hey, just a minute. Never mind designed in Hong Kong. Is nothing made in Hong Kong anymore?
Well, not a lot. These days, it's nearly all made just across the border in China, in Shenzhen to be precise. Hong Kong companies can do their manufacturing here for a fraction of the cost of doing it in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, Shenzhen gets Hong Kong dollars, Hong Kong companies get cheap labor, and though working here is no picnic, by Chinese standards, it's good money. In fact, people in Shenzhen are the richest in China. Would you believe that 10 years ago, this was a quiet town of 300,000? Now, it's a screaming city of 4 million and still growing. Around here, it's build, 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 as ferocious development continues to turn the area into a giant industrial zone, primed to take advantage of a Hong Kong in Chinese hands. So while everyone's asking just how China will change Hong Kong, it's worth considering how Hong Kong might change China.
It's Sunday morning, and these parents are picking their children up from a rather special school. I mean, how many Sunday schools do you know with a waiting list of 11,000? Now just watch this, and I'll explain everything later. Haji. Thank you. The teacher of this bunch of calculating prodigies is Simon Wu, something of a celebrity in Hong Kong. He has his own weekly radio show devoted to teaching people to improve their memory. But when off the air, he's dispensing his own special brand of education. In Simon Wu's classroom, the calculator has been binned to make way for an abacus revival, with a twist. Traditional abacus is one-handed, but Simon believes that using two hands stimulates both brain hemispheres to give faster results.
You are pretty astonishing, kid, but let's see how good you are without your toys.
And once they can use the abacus, they're taught to visualize it. The end result is these children are blisteringly fast at mental arithmetic.
How do you do that? What would I have to do if I wanted to learn?
首先你要咧自我投降咗先。假如我同你講，將來你會喺天上邊會飛，你都要相信。咁嘅時間咧，學起上嚟咧就冇一個叫知識嘅障礙阻礙你嘅活動。
To find out just how fast they are, we brought in Ronnie Chan, accountancy student, the king of the calculator, the fastest fingers in the East, to play against abacus experts Cheng Ho Sum, aged 6, and Wei Wan In, aged 7. One question, I have the answer in my pocket. Simon, it's all yours.
好，準備開始。985減594加812減338減357加914減975等於
447。
啱。
And the answer was 447. Wei Wan In wins. So, class, why do you send your children to this school? Mr. Chan.
I just want my son to improve his concentration in the classroom. The second is a calculation more fast.
Thank you. And Mrs. Wong.
我諗佢呢個方法嚟講咧，比我哋以前嘅童年係更加好同埋先進一啲。
我希望第日大個揾多啲錢養翻爹哋媽咪。
But what about that all-important question? What will happen after 1997?
China is going to take over Hong Kong.
Some of those changes are going to be good, and some of those changes are going to be bad. But that in itself is not going to cause the demise of Hong Kong.
I have already noticed a deterioration in the quality of life here in Hong Kong, and I'd expect that to escalate after 1997.
Hong Kong and Shanghai will become the LA and New York of China.
I think Hong Kong will remain extremely prosperous and free, combining economic liberty and political liberty. That's my hope, and I'm moderately optimistic about it.
Well, we won't add to the speculation, but there is one thing I can tell you. On June 30th, 1997, there isn't a hotel room to be found anywhere, because they've all been booked since 1990.
And whatever happens in the future, this will always be a thrilling place. Good night.
Good night.
And next tonight on BBC One, comedy, Only Fools and Horses.